Welcome to the Face to Face Podcast, Season 2, where we are going to talk about the Danger Report Revisited. We're going to talk about what's happening now and the disruption going on in real estate. Let's get started.
This is Face to Face with the co-founders of the National Association of Expert Advisors, Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
We believe that we can change the real estate industry. There is a better way to sell real estate.
Your success is ultimately a sum of the decisions that you make.
And they're really developing a process, a set of guidelines, a set of procedures.
They're also best-selling authors.
Here today to discuss the issue is Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
All right, Jay, man, this is a great topic, I think. It was definitely a hit when it came out. Why don't you tell people about the Danger Report? Because I think so many people don't even know what it's about.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, NAR commissioned Stefan Swanepoel, and I believe it's T3 is the company that is actually responsible for doing the report. And they wanted to have an outline back in 2015 of the dangers affecting real estate, specifically targeted at the real estate agent, what is likely to disrupt us as real estate agents, what is likely to disrupt the real estate brokerage, and what is likely to disrupt as it relates to the associations. So definitely it was a very good read. It's 167 pages, packed with a ton of really good angles. And we've gone a few years down the road, so we've seen some changes. We've seen some things that have been somewhat disruptive, some more than others. And it definitely, as I was reading through it, just kind of getting really familiar with it, I went to the dangers disrupting, the dangers facing brokerages, which I didn't spend as much time on really studying the first time I read the report, first couple times. But it definitely is interesting to see what the landscape is of the industry today versus what they were expecting to happen when they did the report in 2015.
What was your takeaway after revisiting the brokerage?
Yeah, so I think the biggest takeaway was that nobody really saw. There was a couple of angles, I guess, if you will, when you look at when you read through the whole thing, you can put pieces together and see what's been what we're seeing is disruptive is obviously the agent-centric business model, and that's been what that was number 2 on the list. And when you go back through and read it, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, so I was actually on a podcast. I think I was sharing this with you earlier a few weeks ago, and it's interesting because I was actually asked a couple different questions. One of them, what I think we can get into in a little bit, is really this whole conversation around disruption. And I know the report's actually broken down into many different sections, but it was Brett Jennings, to be specific. He asked me, prior to me getting on this podcast, Brett Jennings asked me a really great question. He was like, how do you see disruption impacting the agent? And so, dude, I would love to get your perspective on the broker. For me, I felt like the disruption for the agent was the broker. And what I mean by that was I felt like the broker is the one that delivers the promise to the agent. So in real estate, the broker is the one that's keeping that promise. It's the one that's the customer, right? Like the broker is not really making a promise to the consumer. They're making a promise to the agent. And what I was saying to him was, and this is just me going off the cuff. I wasn't prepared for this conversation. I mean, I wasn't prepared for this question, but I didn't realize that I had an opinion. And I was like, well, listen, man, let's think about this. Let's unpack this for a second. Let's go back in time and look at the past. What disrupted the real estate broker model in the beginning? It was when the broker gave money to the agent to take over the responsibility, which was really the conversation me and you were having back in 2009, which was like less split, more net, or more, or do you give them more split? Like, what is that? Where do you go? And I feel like if you look back historically over the last decade, the winner chicken dinner has been broker. Let's come up with a recruiting model. Let's give the agent the money and let's let them deal with the responsibility of how to invest that money back into their business. And we'll make a promise. And really the winner up to a certain point was we'll go ahead and compensate them for helping the agent help us broker drive our economic business model by aligning compensation and behavior with what Keller Williams introduced was profit share, which was kind of the first introduction to that disruption. And that was just my off the cuff, but we got into a natural conversation of, the evolution of that model and what I was saying to him, and this is just a brokerage model conversation, right? What I was saying to him specifically was, and this was yesterday, was that I felt like, in 2016, we opened up EGS, and I said from stage that I felt like agents were going to be doing $10 million in production, and it was my belief was based upon the work me and you had been doing with agents who had built their businesses within brokerages, just like I did, and you look up and you start, and I was on a cap model where they were giving me the money, but my agent team had grown so big that even my agents that were on half caps, eventually quarter caps, at the end of the day, I ended up paying $200,000 to the broker. So I was like forced into this model of, hey, there's revenue on the bone. If I expand, that $200,000 can go into facilities. It was just a better business for me as an agent. And right. I feel like Keller Williams caught on to that, that natural problem of losing the influencers, of going independent, that they had to recalibrate their promise under, I know this is long-winded, but you were looking for something, so I'm just sharing my. Yeah. They were recalibrating their promise on saying, okay, we'll help you expand. And what I was telling Brett yesterday was that was all good and great. However, I have to ask permission to expand to Birmingham, Alabama. I have to ask permission to expand to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I have to have permission to expand to Denver, Colorado. And I have to have another cap, which was, I have to get that team leader in that area. And so anyway, we had this expanded conversation, no pun intended, on, these influencers that are growing these big businesses, as you said in 2012, the Darwinian thinning of the herd, the big guy up top, the little guy. And I just felt like, the evolution was the middle guy became the buyer agent, listing agent in, from 2000 to 2010. And now there's this evolution of the model, and everybody's still trying to find out who's going to help these agents with healthcare and an exit. Anyway, sorry, I know I got you wound up.
Right. Yeah. No. So, and I'm just looking. I'm trying to piece like where I feel like they should have been more clear in the danger report on what nobody saw it coming. Right. So like when you look at number 5, which is the new business models go mainstream. The existing compensation structure gets eclipsed as new business models gain rapid traction, and the paperless brokerages, which was number 2 on the list, nobody saw anybody coming with a cloud-based paperless brokerage and a scalable model that offers revenue share back to the agent. Nobody saw that one coming. So I think that we're seeing without a shadow of a doubt, and depending on when you're listening to this, there's either been quite a few, mega influencers that have moved to EXP, or a whole bunch more, because there's so many that are on, that are in the process of making the move right now. It's just incredible. But that's definitely been the way that it's looking. And when you compare, we listened to Gary Keller's talk, and he had a lot to say about EXP. Nothing real specific about EXP and their business model, except for revenue share doesn't work. But like when you go back and look at when they tried revenue share, it didn't work because they had brick and mortar across the country. So it's real easy to say, yeah, it didn't work. We tried it, but you also were you were trying to scale the way that companies scale the slow way, which is, let's go get a region, and then the region can go open some offices, and then the offices, we're going to get team leaders and OPs, and we're going to, there's all this money in that model.
You fucking lied to us, Gary.
Right. Yep. That's and
you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember I listened to the audio because I wasn't there. Right. So I remember you sending me the audio when you went down to one of the expansion classes in Austin. Tell the story, because I think it was pretty interesting.
He was just saying, like, in the very beginning, when you got a vision and you're, sometimes you don't have things figured out. So, I mean, I think his message was consistent. It was aligned. He was just saying, hey, listen, we tried this, we tried that. We thought it was this cap, that cap. and they dialed their stuff in. My only point with sharing that is that, hey, listen, if you guys didn't have it figured out for your first 10,000 clients or agents, which if you look at how long it took them to get their first 1,000 versus this model, I just feel like we're in a more agile. If you look at product development, right, product market fit, that's what we're talking about. Right. When they launched their brokerage, they didn't have product market fit. So what did they have to do? They had to make a promise. Who did they make the promise to? Franchisees. Which therefore right there you have, what is that called, a FDD or whatever? Like,
yep.
You know, it's a franchise model, and so now you have a specific promise, a specific model and you have to make certain promises, and then things work out, don't work out, yada 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 yada. What he was saying is, listen, guys, you know, we're still figuring stuff out, and he actually said specifically that the team model was a Frankenstein model, quote unquote. I think that's on YouTube, which was basically, it was just a collection of best practices. And I had a team in 2003. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book wasn't written to 2005. When I was in KW, there was no way in my office in the Colony, Texas, there was no way to calculate how to pay a buyer's agent. They had to call down to Austin to figure it out, and they had to even ask if I could have one, because there's people outside of the industry that were pushing the model forward. Now, Brilliance, he wrote the book as he started seeing the disruption that was happening with teams, that had to create a new economic model that said, okay, if these agents are going to join these teams, they can't just have their split go away. I mean, then the company doesn't make money off these other agents. We have to come up with an answer for that. And so they struggled. It was a half a cap, a quarter cap, depending on, you know, who you talk to, when you talk to them. It was kind of silent.
It's different. You know? It's different everywhere.
Yeah, and then in California, they had to go from this cap to that cap. They were figuring it out. And I'm not, hey, listen, that's the process. My only thing is that is the process. The process to where he built was getting the feedback from the customer in the brokerage model, which is the agent, and then finding out what exact problems were currently there and how to solve those problems. And so, you know, in my philosophy, and this is based upon my interpretation of the current stage right now, is they were going to rewrite the Millionaire Real Estate book. They were going to add expansion to it, which then aligned and fixed the problem of how do we keep influencers? Let's tell them they can expand in business within a business, blah, 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 blah. But really, it was going back to the same challenge was, well, how's the economics work? Well, in order to do that, you still have to have caps. And so at the very basic part, it's hard to expand across the city. And I just believe, here's my belief, dude. I swear this isn't about nobody, no name. This is about business model. And if you can't hear that, then, you know, then you're emotional, right? This is not an emotional conversation. This is dollars and cents. And what I saw, I had the conversation with a guy, and I said, listen, man, Amazon, let's just be real clear here. Jeff Bezos, 110 billion, now the richest guy in the world, started with books, period. What was he before? A hedge fund manager. Got into the book business. And let's just say, what was his competitive advantage? Here's his competitive advantage in his business model. He had one assumption. The assumption was this: can I get a customer without brick and mortar? Bottom line, I don't care what, if you distill Amazon's, now, what are they doing now? What are they doing is they're reinvesting the profits of the assumption that's been proven, which is, yes, you can get a customer online. And now growth sucks cash. And so everyone always says, oh, well, they were not profitable. Come on, guys. Because they were gobbling up the entire industry, and everybody saw, let's just dump cash and let's go be really disruptive. Hashtag Toys R Us. And so the point here, my only point is that if I can get a customer online without the physical, you know, store, then the margins that I gain, I can reinvest those profits into my pocket or back into my business model. When you reinvest them back into your business model, which is getting more customers, streamlining your fulfillment centers and all those infrastructures that you need in order to have a network, you know, in order to be able to deliver same day. Oh, more disruptive. Okay. Yeah, you get it on Amazon, but you can't have it same day. All right, we're going to fix that. You know what I'm saying? And then they're just reinvesting. And now they had, just think about it, the cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold, if you just take one book on the internet, less than on a dang, you know, on a Shopify account, right? Versus one book in a store in the shopping store at Target. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I could be profitable on one book. And that at the core, what I'm telling everybody right now is here's what's going to happen, Jay Kinder, and this is you. When you get that disproportionate of income, whether it's income stream, this is what I was telling Brett. I said, Brett, here's the thing. Al Stasic, 6 months in real estate. What's his profit share at? 18,000? Revenue share, I'm sorry. Not
Revenue
profit
share.
share.
Yeah, 6 months. He's in his 6th month now at EXP, and it's at 18,000.
Okay, so what can I do? If I don't want to put, just like Jeff Bezos, I don't want to put that in my pocket, Jay. I want to put that back into marketing. How long will it take for Al Stasic to dominate any market at his current run rate and just his revenue share? I mean, he's going to have 100,000 to put back into radio or TV. Y'all can go continue to do what you do, or you can do the math, but I can guarantee you this. He's going to have more money to invest back into the business to acquire a customer. And while you're looking at him thinking, oh, well, he's not selling many houses. Nah, I mean, you can get a badass office for that amount. You can do great direct mail. You can do great radio. You can do TV, and you can do it on day one without tapping into any other. It's an unfair advantage, and I'm telling you, just like you did with radio and TV, you did it a lot in Oklahoma. After you learned the team model, you got a disproportionate market share by running buyer's agents through the leverage of agents and capitalizing on the arbitrage play of generating a lead and converting that lead and getting ISAs. You invested in radio. Radio made you the local celebrity. Then everyone across the country went and did Matt Wagner's radio and TV and experts. And then now they're all top agents. But what they really did was they got a disproportionate. They were able to make that investment because of their model. It let them. And I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen is when you get some guy in San Diego who's got ambitions, who's 31 years old and ain't even getting started, and he reads that expansion book and he's like, dude, I'm going to do it within this model. He's going to look up and have $200,000 a month in profit share, and I'm going to retake my thing that says agents are going to be doing 10 million. I'm going to say there's going to be agents doing 100 million.
Yep. There's no doubt. It is an unfair advantage. That's exactly what it is.
I told you, dude, don't let me start watching Joe Rogan, dog.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, dude, it's just what I mean by that is that no holds bar. I mean, if someone wants to jump on here, I want someone to instant message me and say, bring me on face to face and let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's have the conversation. Let's have a healthy, friendly debate. I mean, we're trying to start the conversation, but we've been pushing the envelope since Web Agent Solutions, since Mojo Dialer, since Z Buyer, Commissions Inc., Tiger Leads, all these tools that agents use that they would have never known about in the event that we didn't help them get a customer acquisition strategy to help do the exact same thing I just laid out. Matt Wagner, radio and TV experts, people act like, I mean, we've been saying stuff like this and people see the ripple effect and they need to pay attention.
No doubt. So you actually covered a lot of the what the naysayers may be saying about EXP. So the fact that they're not profitable. Well, they're building cash. So if you look at their cash flow statement, you see otherwise. But they're due to the number of shares that they have that they're putting into the marketplace, they're not given to agents, if you will, or allocating for agents. They're not able to. It's showing when you look at their profits for each quarter when they release those that they're not as profitable, but they're still growing at a record pace. I've never seen anything I've never seen growth like this. I've never seen a model, saying Amazon's picking up market share, but you don't feel it when you order your second thing from Amazon for the month. I get a package from Amazon every day now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just become a part of my life. It's just how I do business. When I buy stuff, I go to Amazon. But I've never seen anything picking up as much market share. People, picking up and leaving from their brands that they're at and moving over to EXP at a pace that I've seen and experienced with EXP. What's, the advantage of not having bricks and mortar to consistently open, in every marketplace. Essentially, you can tell anybody anywhere across the country about EXP and they can join. And you don't have to wait to go get an office or a lease or there's nothing that stops them from, growing at a pace that's never been seen before in the history of real estate. I think that's what people are missing is, listen, it doesn't, you can go look at the revenue share. I mean, Al has 25 people he's recruited. That's it. That's not that many. Now, Rob Flick has 38. He's been in it 2.5 years. His revenue share is 152,000 a month. So, I don't think people understand how disruptive this model is to the real estate brokerage industry. I don't think that I think Gary Keller understands very clearly how disruptive it is, and I think there's a few other people that understand how disruptive it is. But I don't think most agents realize the opportunity that sits in front of them if they were just to embrace and put ego aside and embrace a new business model. Whatever you're doing today is going to be severely disrupted by anybody who is at EXP and takes advantage of telling other people about the company.
Absolutely. You remember who sent you the first webinar?
Chris Waters actually sent
Number
me the
one
first
agent in Austin. Number one agent in Austin was already looking into this. 19 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, he probably would have done it if he hadn't been. He's franchising. I think he would look at it a lot different. He's very deep into the direction that he's going. It would be hard.
But unfortunately, I love the guy. I love him. But what's the profit in his model?
It's not near enough.
Yeah,
you know me. You know me. I'll pack up my tools, leave.
Yeah. The risk and the investment that you have to do something like that. What he was looking for, to be honest with you, was an opportunity. That's what this comes down to. In any business, Keller Williams created opportunity. Let's just talk Remax. Let's just Exit. Who else is out there? Century 21, Homes. I don't even know all the dang businesses, but let's just say people are just looking for an opportunity. When they go independent, they're just looking for an opportunity to capture more of the value that they're creating. But here's the thing. When you can leverage, the bottom line is that if you do the math and you do the research and you're not emotional, and what I mean by that is, it's just dollars and cents. Somebody can stand up on stage and say, "Hey guys, we're gonna do this and that and this." We created a data play with the guy who founded Free 411. Wall Street Journal put us on the cover of the Wall Street Journal inside of Silicon Valley with Brett Jennings on the cover. Guy doing 100 million. We were doing predictive data. This is in 2012.
Right.
The best man in Scott's wedding was Fidel, which is the guy Steve Jobs said gave him credit in his autobiography for inventing the iPhone. That's the best man in Scott's wedding. Right? And we're doing this in 2012, predictive data scientists. They're talking about in 2017. But here's the point. That's called, you know what I call that, Jay? It's called pixie dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pixie dust because here's what happens. Here's what happens when you go on a listing appointment. When you go on a listing appointment and you say, this is what this Tom guy, good guy, I won't say his last name, but he asked me the best questions anybody's ever asked me. But one of his things was, when I go on a list, this is what he said to me, Jay. When I go on a listing appointment, I'm going to tell him I'm with Keller Williams. This guy just left the team, 4 or 5 months ago, already took 22 listings, and he just kind of grew up under under the Keller model. And he said, he was just asking me a question. I said, well, I said, well, what's the problem when that homeowner is interviewing 5 Keller Williams agents? Then what y'all say, it was like every question he asked. It was crazy that the level of questions that he was asking, bless his heart. He was doing his due diligence. But when we got down to the brass tacks, what I wanted to say to him and everybody else, and even, people who ask me more intelligent questions, not that one question is not more intelligent, but the great question, every answer I said, okay, and how much is that going to help you sell your business for? It's not. Right. I don't care what they do with. I got a guy who went from 30 transactions to 200 million, and I asked him the question, how's that going to help you sell your business? And are you thinking that's going to help you go from 200 million to 300 million? You already learned how to get a customer. Let's face it, and it didn't require your brokerage broker in any of their tools. Jay, you sold 531 homes, and you did it, dude, with Web Agent Solutions, and your leads came to you in your email inbox.
Right.
We didn't have no behavioral. All that shit is great, but none of that beats. Call. Listen. You can do all the other stuff, but if you don't call the lead, you might need help. If you don't have content to communicate to the relationship, our middle of funnel. I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to have a competitive advantage in real estate, quit thinking about what brokerage you're at and think about what marketer you're studying. Like, become a marketer.
Right.
That will help you win.
And this, and well, and as always, skills, right? So, you can have the best, plan for data on the planet. And to punctuate your point, if you're not sharp as a tack on the phone, if you can't convince someone that you're knowledgeable and you can help them, then it doesn't really matter what data you have. It's not going to give you any kind of an advantage. So, you can spend all the money in the world trying to solve for data, but I look at Zillow. And I look at the numbers that Zillow didn't improve, and you looked at these as recently as I have, Mike, probably more recently. But when you look at the numbers, 100 leads with Zillow is they're not telling you you're going to convert 8, 10, 12, 15% of those leads. They're and if they are, then they're probably just giving you less of them. Would be the trick to the play that they're making. But they're showing you ROI is all they're trying to show you now, which is just another way of them, no different than a referral fee. You see 30, 35, 40% referral fees. Agents are willing to pay those. As long as they're willing to pay that, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to lead generate, a marketer that's out there that's going to learn how to generate leads and give them away as 35, 40%, or higher referrals. But they're not, the lead, even Zillow, who has the most data of anyone. I don't think anybody can deny that, right? They have the most eyeballs, the most data. They have pretty much the entire funnel from the beginning of the home search all the way to the end. They have all the data, but they're not converting. They're not saying to you as an agent, hey, you're going to convert 10%. You're going to get 10 leads, and you're going to close 1 out of every 10 of these. That's not what they're saying, because they haven't done anything with the data that changes. That where what changes is what the agent does with that data, with that lead. Is this going to result in whether or not they become a deal? And there's more things that are within your control than the behavioral information that we studied for years trying to figure out as well. There's just not anything that's definitive that's going to give you an extreme advantage unless you're an influencer and you have those skills and you're at a much higher level. But that's just a game that it's not a game that I'm trying to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have the money.
Right. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It's crazy, man. It really is. And I mean, so let's talk about the danger report. I mean, I feel like all of this stuff is at some level layered into the danger report as far as contextually, right? I mean, if it talks about some of the, these specific disruptions, if you distill them down to the principal level.
Right. Well, yeah, it depends on which way you want to look. I mean, if you want to go to the agent side of it, the disruption, I think the same. Nobody's figured out how to disrupt the and I've come to it depends on how long you've been listening to us to know if you probably know my stance on the consumer. The consumer, we've been trying to the fear of someone disrupting to the consumer we've had for a long time. The reality is nobody's figured out how to do it. And the consumer is not looking for just a discount. They like Redfin's technology, but they don't buy from their stupid ass agents. So their salaried model, and they've blown several $100 million to build a average sized brokerage across the country with a really cool technology. You got Compasses out there basically offering $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for agents to come on 2 and 3 year contracts, only for them to leave afterwards because they couldn't even deliver on the technology or the data and the technology promises they were making when they signed them up. To appear that they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars on these stories, but nobody has been able to disrupt and go straight to the consumer and win the consumer. The agent is still a part of the transaction, and to Gary Keller's comments that he's always made is that you'll never remove the agent from the transaction. And it doesn't seem that anybody's gotten any closer. There's been hundreds of more millions of dollars spent in trying to disrupt us from the as a real estate agent. I still think that the number one threat to the real estate industry is the marginal, we call them the AFA, the average frustrated agent that's selling 6 to 8 homes a year. That still, to me, is the biggest threat and ruining our reputation. But I think the more we distance ourselves from those average agents, the more likely those agents aren't going to be around.
I can't say, I really can't say it better than that. Let me ask you a question for people who don't know Stefan Swanepoel. So he's the guy he was the one commissioned to write it, right?
Right, correct.
And so then they spent a lot of money. When he interviewed us at EGS, and this is just I don't want to say you always, because I'm trying to say you got a great memory. What do you feel like his takeaway was after our discussion on stage? What do you feel like his position was after writing it? If you were to say, man, my take on Stefan Swanepoel's opinion about this as a whole was what? What was your interpretation?
From the agent side or the broker side?
At the whole thing in general, just the disruption across the whole thing. Did he I just remember us having kind of an in-depth conversation, and I felt like he felt like disruption was coming, right? And did you feel like he leaned towards one side or the other? Is I guess what I'm trying to ask. In your interpretation of the conversations with the guy that was commissioned to write it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I read that he was looking one direction or the other. I don't think he saw what's been the most disruptive. I don't feel like he saw what was actually has been proven to be the most disruptive. I think everyone was kind of leaning towards what's gonna be the most disruptive. I think the data, the MLS data, is probably the biggest. Getting control of the data is probably the biggest threat to the industry as a whole. And I think that was something that he was definitely keen on, mentioning. But as far as the agents being threatened, I don't think that he had a stance that was any different than anything that we saw.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I think what are you thinking? I felt like you had something there.
No, I didn't. I remember when was it Jake, his right hand person, interviewed you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they talked product upstream. I mean, they're talking about the control of the data. That the fact that we're not in control of of our own data. I think that is the biggest lever that we have as an industry, is not giving our data to people to try to sell it back to us. I mean, that's definitely the biggest threat is definitely there. The data is the most important thing, and project upstream is something they've been working on to be in a position where we control the data as an industry, as opposed to it being out there where everyone has access to it.
And just for people who aren't understanding data, break that down. What is our data? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I mean, when you think about all of the data, when a listing, the reason there was MLSs across the country in the first place was the accuracy of data. So if you go back 15 years, maybe not even that long, you go to Yahoo and the listing that would show up was a house that was sold 6 months ago, and there's no accuracy in the data, and so there just hasn't been a way to monitor that outside of these local MLSs in every marketplace that have standards that all take a new listing, you got to turn it into the MLS. You got to take it out of the MLS when it goes pending or sold. All that information, in order for any of these that's out there to work, that you have to have access to that same feed, and that's the most valuable thing that we have, is the real time data, that things that that when we take a house and put it on the market, if it shows up on Zillow on day one, that's a threat. Now all the eyeballs go to Zillow. We as brokers and as an industry don't have control of that data. We're giving all the power to Zillow to do that. We're paying a bunch of money, but we're basically just digging our own graves by giving that data away. So that was the mistake I think that as an industry we made. And the data is extremely valuable. The control of that, and not and giving the broker a choice to whether or not it goes out to Zillow or not, are all things that that we have control over doing. But a lot of MLSs have sold us out, sold us down the river by trying to put deals together with these different companies, such as Zillow or Trulia, to put that data out there, and basically that's the risk. I mean, we're at risk at becoming extinct if everyone has access to the same data, we're much more likely to be disrupted than if we don't give them access to that same data.
And what do you know, just kind of hearing it like that, one of the things that it makes me just naturally think that if that's all the value you add to the transaction, that's don't you kind of deserve to be extinct?
Yeah, it's a great point. So if you're not innovating and trying to to provide a better experience for the consumer, then you're definitely at risk of becoming disrupted. And while we have the control because we have the data, Canada is in the same boat, and Canada has done a much better job of managing their data than just giving it out there to the consumer. And so it's not public, as public of record as it is here. So at any rate, I think you're certainly liable, likely to be disrupted. But as an industry, if we're not putting that data out there, we control that data and then we innovate and improve upon it, as opposed to letting these other companies do that and then sell it back to us. We would be in a much better spot in terms of protection from that perspective, anyway.
Yeah. And I think the only thing is the consumer really owns the data. And if there's ever a technology that allows them to, allows them to, leverage their data in a way that, together there's there's an opportunity. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I definitely agree. I don't know. I agree with the game plan based upon the fundamental problem. What would you say? How important is that over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years just from your gut? I know I'm asking you questions, but
it's a good question.
I'm trying to get you. I mean, if you were selling real estate tomorrow, is that what you'd be worried about?
I don't want to mess with it. I can tell you that. I mean, I would rather not have to be the one that has to solve that problem. Of all the problems that I have to solve, I mean, I would love to see the brokers not lose control of their data. As a brokerage, not losing control of your data allows you to to do iterations and create, and allow other people to, if people want to add value, we can buy whatever product we want from them. But I would rather us not be giving our data up to to the enemy that's trying to bury us.
Right. I love it.
What's your perspective?
Man, my perspective is I'm kind of the Amazon model. I think the person that wins the consumer wins the game, and the consumer ultimately owns the real data, right? They're the ones that let you in their house, let you take their photos. They're the ones that, just think about like anything, like in renting your own car, an insurance policy disrupted it, right? And so, if somebody can get into a house and all of this stuff, then why is the homeowner, the thing that I've always heard was, because we have a dual agency, it's been hard to disrupt real estate, right? And you have to kind of remove dual agency, which would be the buyer and seller's agent, which is a whole different argument. But like, if there was a place that I could put my information that was done in a way that, as a homeowner, that was done in a way where all homeowners relied on it, and that place became more valuable than giving it to my agent, and then actually giving it to my agent would be archaic or a hassle, then they're building a bunch of technology that isn't going to matter anyway, right? Because I don't have to have you come to my house, interview 6 of you, to then, spend 3 hours with you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so what happens if there was just a way that I could, have an appraisal done, have what happens if there was a better way for that data to be more accurate, if there was a way for that data to be, aggregated in a way where, one of the agents was disrupted, then the only other thing is, getting people in the house. And then once you disrupt that, which would be, a guy goes to a title company. It's not a title company. Imagine walking in like a Tesla store, and just like you put money in escrow when you buy a house, you just put money in escrow. And depending on the size of houses you're pre-approved from, depends on your escrow. And once you open up escrow and you're pre-approved with your social and all your legal information, you get a key that lets you in homes. And just like any insurance policy, when you rent a car, the homeowner is protected. Now a guy doesn't have to wait for an agent on Sunday at 2 or this or that. In fact, in the future, they can get a car that can drive them around so they don't even get lost. And now you just really need to get the homeowner to put all of their stuff in a centralized location, like we do all of our pictures on Facebook, right? And
Right.
so, you know, I don't know. I just think that I think
Where does
if
that
you win the
where does that
win
leave?
the
Where does that leave the agent?
well, I believe that the agent is always going to be maybe I believe that the agent's going to be always going to have to negotiate a sale between two people, and there is a lot of value in negotiation, and there's a lot of value in getting the highest price for the home. So there's always going to be people that I think are going to be able to leverage marketing and create more demand. And if you can create a higher demand better than your competitor can, then you can net your client more money. And so I think, I heard in Australia they're considered marketing specialists, agents are, or something like that. That's what they're referred to. A lot of the value that they place on it is there. So maybe it'll be in taking that content that the homeowner has and making them attract that highest offer online before they open. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think there will always be value in negotiations anytime you have two people, because the level of two people and people are always going to be people, and you're going to always have crazy people, whether it's sellers or buyers. And I think a great negotiator, almost someone who has a skill set of going in and helping facilitate that transaction, of getting those two people to agree on a price, and the skill set will be always getting them to, the seller will always be willing to pay more if someone's got a track record of getting the buyer to agree to a higher price.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's who's to know? I think we're just having a discussion. I don't think the value is going to be driving them to the house and unlocking the door. That's for sure.
Right. Well, Open Door already has, I don't know how many listings and how many different markets they're in. And I'm sure OfferPad's not far behind. There's tons of listings all over Dallas right now that you can go to and open with your cell phone, up to, I think, what is it, like up until 9:00 at night or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're vacant, their houses. I don't know what percentage of those are co-broked, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, what buyers are actually going to, Open Door's website and looking for homes, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not like they're selling them at a discount. So it's interesting to see. Yeah, I'm sure they're probably co-broken on most of them, but we need to pull up that data and see what that looks like. But you can certainly go look at houses without a real estate agent. Open Doors pulled that off.
Yeah, and I definitely think everybody's speculation of the future. I think a lot of models get blown out in a down market.
Right.
So like it doesn't matter what you think it is. Once it's a down market and sellers are desperate to get rid of it and they can't get anyone to take it. Yeah. Then there will be a lot of people that think they got it under control, and the next thing they know, they're gonna have to rework their plan. And just like we started with Gary, they'll reiterate, they'll adapt just like they did, and nothing bad about. I've always been very I've always admired Gary Keller and Keller Williams, and really anybody. I mean, this same conversation could have happened in the '90s with Dave Lineker, right? I mean, this absolutely. Is just. This isn't Keller Williams is just the ones that have been kicking ass now. And when you're at the top, you always got a target on your back.
Great conversation.
Yeah, great conversation. I appreciate you jumping on and us nailing this podcast today. I always love to talk about it. I think what we're just trying to add to the conversation and share our perspective. And at the end of the day, we like to say staying face to face will always be the highest and best use of your time. That's for sure, with homeowners that want to get their home sold.
No doubt about it.
Well, any final parting words, Mr. J. Kinder?
Nope, I ain't got any other part. Where are you headed? You about to leave town? You going somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to take the boys snowboarding for a couple days and then come back with you to that leadership meeting and then just keep on pressing away. But yeah, I'm going to go take them snowboarding there's a place in Utah where kids under 12 ski free, and on Skitopia We got lift tickets for $50. So I mean, I think like for my entire family, just to be on the mountain for 3 days was like $300.
That's cheap. I love it.
Yeah.
Good snow,
Yes, sir.
hopefully, too.
Yeah, it snowed yesterday. And they got 3 feet 2 weeks ago. So
If we don't see you at the top,
see you from the top.
take care.